Amelia and Doris, hello and welcome to the Responsible Tech University Summit.
Hello.
All
Hi.
right. I know we're going back to back, so I'm just going to leave the live stream right now and then have you talk about your wonderful organization. We've been saying privacy is dead. Long live privacy. So love to hear this discussion that we're going to have.
Thanks so much, David. Hi, everyone. I'm Doris. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm really happy to be here today to meet you all and hear all of your exciting speeches and presentations. So today, Jamelia and I are going to introduce ourselves briefly, and then we're going to focus on the organization that we started called PrivaZy. So a bit about me. I'm a recent grad of Wellesley, where I studied politics and English, and I currently work in tech. I've had a pretty diverse set of experiences in tech policy, tech law, user experience, and interface design. And I'm passionate about combining all of those experiences to create and design and maintain tech that everyone feels like they can safely use.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm Jamila. I use she, her pronouns as well. I'm a sophomore now at Wellesley College, and I study data science and anthropology. I grew up in Kazakhstan, and I immigrated to the US when I was in high school. So I have a STEM background, and I usually teach computational thinking to middle and high school students during summers.
So let's talk about how we got into responsible tech in the first place. In college, I had the opportunity to research the political, ethical, legal impacts of tech like artificial intelligence and social media platforms. And I've been thinking about those topics ever since. And I'm particularly interested in the privacy impacts of tech, because I think the future of tech is increasingly personalized tech, right? So tech that collects massive amounts of data from us to provide services that are catered to us. For example, autonomous vehicles that know exactly where we need to go at a certain time of day. And I think that's really exciting, and it presents exciting opportunities for tech users. But it's also a big privacy issue, especially for marginalized groups who are often targeted using these massive data sets by governments and law enforcement. And I want to be a part of addressing that issue. Jamelia, what about you? How did you get into the responsible tech space?
So for me, I think I personally just noticed the need to create such responsible tech spaces, because even though I went to well-funded STEM middle and high schools and then a college in the US, where students are always excited to create technological solutions for problems in society, but the more CS and engineering courses that I took, the more I noticed how little attention is actually paid to social implications of technologies. So I haven't encountered like a solid tech ethics curriculum. So I was kind of pushed to find that knowledge outside of school. For example, if I'm working on a project, I often have to find outside research about ethics to make sure that my solution won't actually bring more harm than good. And sometimes it actually just comes down to asking yourself the right questions. And it is a very useful skill that is almost never a part of a curriculum.
Yeah, that's so true. I think because privacy isn't often taught in schools, we want to help fill that gap. So who are we? PrivaZy Collective is a community-centered, media-based movement to raise awareness about and address the online privacy issues, particularly those faced by those of us in Generation Z. And we know a lot of Gen Zers are here watching today, so coming to this event was really important to us. We want to let you and other generations know that it's important for young people to be involved in spaces of tech ethics advocacy, and for us specifically, privacy advocacy. So let's talk about why that's the case. Our focus on Gen Z is motivated by how much we're online compared to our parents and our grandparents. Many of us have heard that criticism that young people were always on our phones, but we have data to back that up as well. Pew Research Center found, for instance, that almost half of 18 to 29-year-olds say they're online almost constantly, and that's compared to 36% of 30 to 49-year-olds, 19% of 50 to 64-year-olds, just 7% of those who are 65 or older. And that's a big difference between these age groups, right? And that just means that Gen Zers, we're more at risk when it comes to the privacy-related consequences of being online. For example, maybe we can be tracked more easily by companies and governments than our parents. But it's not just that we're online all the time now. We've always been. So Gen Zers like us, we grew up with Google, with internet connected toothbrushes and other data collecting gadgets and platforms. We've used them our whole lives and we deeply understand them. And to some extent, they deeply understand us. But no one ever taught us about the privacy consequences of using these services. I'm sure I'm not alone in having posted way too much information online as a kid, where my exact locations were, what I was doing and feeling at the time. I didn't know that this was sensitive information that could be used against me, and how also, if you think about it, if someone hacks our social media or Google Drives, they can access our entire lives worth of information from childhood until now, because we've been using these for so long. So that's why Jamelia and I started PrivaZy. We want to start learning to start teaching each other about the privacy implications of having been online our whole lives and what we should do to address these issues. And we want future generations to be more aware of these issues as they grow up with the same services and technologies that we've always had.
Yeah, and also want to mention that privacy issues, they are not new and they're not limited to our generation. Older generations also face privacy challenges, but we wanted to create something focused on our generation because we just haven't found a privacy advocacy group yet that is only dedicated to teens and young adults. And this is important because we often feel like we're not qualified enough to raise certain questions and issues within tech ethics. And there are many privacy organizations out there who are full of people with lots of academic degrees or work experience. So we feel like we don't belong in those spaces sometimes, especially if someone is a part of a marginalized group. That's why we created our own space. Even though some of us might not have 10 years of work experience, we're experts on our life experiences. And as Gen Z, we have enough experience being digital natives and valuable opinions to get together and learn how we can best support each other. So that's why we believe that you don't have to be a privacy expert to protect yourself and to advocate for the privacy rights of others. You can be young, still in school, and have opinions to contribute and actions you can take. So let's talk about what privacy has done. So far, we posted a workshop for New York City Data Week to brainstorm how Gen Zers can increase their participation in tech privacy. And we created a guide to define the role of our generation in the privacy advocacy movement. And you can actually find this guide in our Linktree, which is Linktree/privacy. We want to organize more events like this to continue bridging the gap between the most engaged users of data-driven technologies, us, and those who create and regulate tech. Currently, we're also producing a podcast to discuss such topics as how to maintain your privacy while posting on social media. To expand our reach, we want to continue connecting with other privacy advocacy groups. For example, Electronic Frontier Alliance, which is a network of organizations promoting the importance of digital rights. And finally, we are also designing surveys for Gen Z to understand how people our age approach issues of privacy. Our generation is very active online, but that doesn't mean that we don't care about our data being collected and manipulated. That's what we want to learn from our surveys. So if you want to get involved with what we're doing at PrivaZy, we have open meetings every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And during the meetings, we have conversations about privacy topics and we give each other advice. In recent meetings, we've talked about how privacy collection on social media can trap us in echo chambers. So we see only what we already believe. If you want to join these conversations, you can find all of the links to do that at Linktree/privacy. And I think I can include that in the chat, so I'll make sure to do that.
Great, thank you, Jamelia. Yeah, as a final note, I just like to encourage those of us who are young, in college, fresh out of college, really be unafraid to speak up. We have a unique perspective on tech, the tech that's making the headlines today in both good and bad ways. That's the tech we grew up with. That's the tech that's helped us access all this unimaginable amounts of information, right? The tech that's helped us make and maintain relationships across the globe. I think there's so much good in tech. And our goal at PrivaZy and within the responsible tech movement is to help everyone safely, confidently take advantage of those benefits. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, that was wonderful. Like I said, all those incredibly valuable links that you talked about, especially the convening spaces. We hear a lot, especially with this Responsible Tech University Summit, how we need more of that. We need to bring people together. So we're going to have all of those links. I think we already do in that shared document. For everyone right now joining us, get on that shared document, check out all the bios of all these wonderful speakers, all these great organizations like PrivaZy that we're seeing right now. So I'm just going to thank you both and then take you off screen. And then we're going to bring up Hillary Ross, who's with Rebooting Social Media, part of Harvard Berkman Klein Center. Thank you.
Thank you.